Hello, and welcome to the Hamumu Halloween Home Horror Hoedown. I am your host, Mike Hommel.
And I'm your other host, Solely Hommel.
And we're going to take you through 31 scary movies through the month of October, like we do every year. But for the first time this year, we're going to do it entirely in audio format. We like to mix it up every year. One thing you need to be aware of is that we will be employing a truly ghoulish number of spoilers throughout all of these reviews. So if you haven't seen the movie we're reviewing, maybe don't listen to our podcast until you do. We highly recommend you check them out and watch along with us. It's going to be fun for everybody. I mean, how could it not be? So if you're ready and you've watched the movie, please step inside our lair and let's begin.
Did we pick this?
I feel like that's a good thing to say.
Little Evil is a 2017 film rated TVMA that is, I think it's a Netflix original.
It was.
We watched it on Netflix, of course. It's 94 minutes long. It's rated 57 on IMDb, which strangely, it's rated 91 by the Rotten Tomato critics. So, way off base. One of them must be. And the Rotten Tomato audience, though, has it down at 46. So it's those Rotten Tomato critics that are out of place.
See, we're back to that situation where the critics, the professional critics, and the actual people who watch movies totally disagree.
And that will be interesting to find out whether we're professionals or not. But today's a very special episode because we have guests in the studio.
Yay! Okay, will you introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Amy McLean.
Hi, I'm Colin.
Colin and Amy are cousins, friends, gaming buddies, and every year we torture them by making them watch a horror movie with us.
Two for two.
Love it.
It's the highlight, really,
Of the
of the whole year.
Yeah, great.
Which goes into why this movie was the one that we picked tonight. So, last year, I feel like we almost broke Colin.
We brought out the Devil's Rejects.
We did. Yeah, we had them watch the Devil's Rejects after I really talked up House of a Thousand Corpses because it's still probably my favorite horror movie ever.
5 out of 5 on our patented rating scale.
That was when I very clearly understood that our movie tastes aren't quite the same.
Mm-hmm. So you guys did not rate Devil's Rejects 5 out of 5.
No. I remember it was a little too hardcore just to be hardcore. And maybe it just wasn't a good movie, you know.
No, that's not it.
Well, no, see, I feel like I gave it a 4.5, you gave it a 4, Amy gave it a 3.5, and Colin gave it a 2.
2.
It's just
it was not the right movie. So, anyway, this year, because I want him to continue to come back and do this from year to year, I was trying to pick something that was a little more friendly for everybody, I guess.
A little more family friendly.
Family-friendly TVMA.
I was trying to find something between The Devil's Rejects and Castle Transylvania, which was the request. I feel like this was kind of a pretty good compromise, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was not listed as horror on IMDb, so we could not watch it.
No. Okay, so we ended up watching Little Evil. First line, first shot. First shot is a tree at night in the rain. Blurry. Yep. Then it clears up, pans over to a house that's lit up inside, and a woman comes racing out the door. That's the beginning of the movie. It's a few seconds in. She runs around the house a little bit before she shouts, "Yay!" And that's the first line.
That is a good line.
Okay, so let's start with one of our classic pieces that we're using this month. Favorite lines. There were quite a few good lines in this movie.
I think so.
What does everybody have a favorite line?
The one that stands out for me is...
He's not Satan. He's just a portal to Satan. And good parenting, it's about keeping that portal shut.
And that's good parenting.
That's good parenting, right? Yeah, that's the one.
Yes.
That's mine too.
So you have familiarity with us.
I feel like that immediately identifies you guys as the parents in this group.
Yeah. It's another reason to choose this movie is the recognition factor.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a couple. One in particular, I liked when Gary's friend Al was saying that
Now all the kids are going to want a burning clown for their birthday.
their birthdays. Thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I liked when it started raining blood and Gary was just like,
Now it's raining blood, Sam. Not cool, Lucas. Not cool.
not cool.
I wrote that one down too. I wrote a lot of them, but right at the very end was the one that just got me, and it's stupid. It's really stupid and really far out of left field, and that's why it got me. It was...
They both punch really well, like when people run up to them in churches.
Which was true.
That's exactly when they punch well. Yeah. It's very specific.
Yeah, Gary took out the cultist slash CPS lady who was played by Sally Fields pretty quickly.
Yeah, the second time this month we've seen cultist slash CPS person.
That's true. What was the other movie that... Oh, June. Yes. Who was also a child possessed by the devil, basically, right?
Something like that.
In a cultist ritual. A lot of parallels there.
So many. Also...
Yes.
So creative.
That mom, though, right? Like, oh, okay. I spent the whole movie wondering if she was in on it
Or just a ditz.
really stupid.
Right? Yeah. She was. Yeah.
It's covered
She
with
played it
warm
really-
red body
yeah.
paint.
Yes.
And something always happens, like a freak mulch accident.
And I think she truly was just that naive.
Mm-hmm.
Because even at the end, after everything was done, there was something that she said as they were like walking away where I'm like, oh, you still don't understand, do you? It was interesting.
I think that's hardcore refusal to accept the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
I mean, okay, so you guys have several children. If one of your children had been acting like that, like, would you have just been defending them to the core, or would you have been like, I am pretty sure you are possessed by the devil?
I would defend them completely, but at the same time probably think that they're from the devil. But as a parent, I wouldn't be able to say that out loud, even if I believed it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
Prepare
not
for the
gonna
worst,
lie.
right? That's what they
Yeah.
say, right? Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, as a non-parent, that is terrifying to me.
But on the very, very small chance that they're not the spawn of Satan, you will mess them up a lot if you call them the spawn of Satan.
That's true.
It's true.
It's a big
true.
problem.
It's a challenge. Which is really what this whole movie was about. It's the challenges of parenting.
Yeah, it took an interesting turn at the end. He was not supposed to stab the kid. That's a twist.
You know why? Because he was the key master.
And there was a gozer in there too.
There was a
right?
gozer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there was the sign. He was asking for a sign, and the sign was written in sky writing, love.
So obviously, in that universe, God does exist, because Satan exists, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So
I mean,
turned
yeah,
out okay in the end.
I guess.
As far as we know.
As long as you're not that priest guy who got thrown into the pit of hell at the end.
Right.
I mean, he
That
was
was
trying
a-
to bring hell to earth anyway, so
It's true.
it's kind of what he was hoping for.
Yeah,
So it did. It worked
He-
out well for
win-win.
everybody.
He won too, yeah.
I also liked the wedding videographer.
He was classic.
Yeah, there's always that character in these movies who knows what's going on early on and is trying to convince everybody, and he was definitely that character. At one point, he said that he had an ear for language because he was a videographer. And, I mean, Colin, I know you've done some recording,
Right.
and I just have to
Yeah.
ask, do you have an ear for language?
No, nothing like reverse English or anything like that.
You can't identify Latin, not Latin, just by hearing it.
I think the difference between English backwards and Latin would be pretty obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounded obvious.
I just couldn't buy it because as a videographer, he was okay with the wind and all that stuff. The shot that he would frame up and everything, he
Yeah.
went on about how he was, like auteur, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
he was going to get the shot, and then this freak tornado comes in and ruins it. He was pretty cool about it, and I know that a lot of videographers would be pissed.
Well, I feel like that's a traumatic scene he got to shoot at.
Oh, maybe, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
He did get the guy getting sucked up pretty well. He
Yeah,
framed
that's
that
pretty
well.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was that? Uncle Scott?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I didn't know he made it.
He didn't.
He didn't.
Yeah.
My next question is for both of you. We've kind of touched on it a little bit, but is parenting, in fact, hell? Which is sort of what this movie was indicating.
Somewhat. I mean, all of those bad things they talk about, kids pooping in drawers and all that, that happens. It really does.
I did notice you were laughing pretty hard during that part.
And you know, like...
Tell your side that you called her kid the Antichrist. I do that all the time. Sometimes he deserves it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They also show, like, you know, they got the best dad ever ball, and suddenly everything was fine. And that's how parenting is. It's horrible and awful and whatever, and the time you're just about to freak out, the kid will look at you and be like, I love you, and you just turn into like a puddle of goo.
It's the magic of children.
Yeah, right after you try to murder them.
Follow-up question. Speaking of that,
What?
have you ever had to partake in or put a stop to any cult rituals involving your children?
Oh, that's a good question.
Maybe?
The rooms are dirty enough sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
It looks like there might be some
Not
witchcraft going in
And with
there,
some of the
you know.
weird hoarding and candles and who knows,
Not
we may have
entirely.
stopped them from opening portals to hell several times. I'm not sure.
You don't know what's
See
buried
that.
under those layers of clothes.
Right.
I wanted to get into the world of personal connections. We try to find a personal connection to each movie. I found something. Do you guys have a personal connection with this film?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it was, I don't know if it's personal, but this movie was kind of cool because they had performers in there that you could say, hey, I recognize that one person from somewhere. And you could never really understand or remember where they were. So, I'm sorry, for the whole movie, I'm like, I recognize that person. I don't know their name. I know where they're from.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed that, I guess. One of the things that I
sounds
like
fun.
doing is saying, okay, I know this guy. He was in that movie, which was awesome. He played this person, whatever. And I just couldn't do it this time because they just had those faces, but no names.
All
you
the
know?
actors, you know their faces and not their names?
Exactly, yeah. So
For me, that's all actors and actresses. What about your personal connection, Mike?
Well, I'm kind of afraid it's actually your personal connection. When
Well, that would be weird.
we're the same person.
Oh, right, I forgot.
Just so our listeners know, I imagine solely she's not a real person.
I don't
and
actually exist.
She doesn't exist.
You're not actually hearing anything that I'm saying. You're just hearing Mike's half
'cause
of this conversation.
No, I'm doing two voices.
really good. Yeah, you're doing it real well.
It's
This time you're doing 4 voices.
I'll bet they could make a great horror movie off of that.
I'm pretty terrified.
Okay, so what's our personal connection?
Our personal connection is when they went to bed and had Lucas come to their bed with them, and he's laying in the middle between them, and he's kind of growling in his sleep, pushing his fist into Gary's neck.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's huzzah in our bed every night.
When
Every
that
night.
when that happened and the kid was growling and whatnot, I'm like, that's not even evil. Kids just do that.
Yeah.
Yep. I am sure if my father is listening to this right now, he is thinking about the many times when I was very young and we would go on road trips and things. I would end up whapping him in the face with a fist in the middle of the night, or, you know, kicking him or whatever, you know. As a youngster, I slept not quietly. So Huzzah definitely does that to me like every single night.
Yeah, he's obnoxious.
Actually hitting me with his fist. I'm on a more serious note. This movie really talked about stepdads and their relationships with their stepchildren and a real connection. So I come from a family tree with many branches and splits and whatnot. I have step-parents and all kinds of things going on in my family. So I know, like, the whole blended family thing is tricky. There's a lot that goes on in combining families. So I have that personal connection. Mike, you don't have experience with that anywhere in your immediate family. That's interesting.
We're from the 50s.
So what's interesting is when I was a kid, I was one of the first people that like one of the few people in my class who had any kind of divorce in their family. Mm-hmm. And I think now your family is the more rare situation.
Yeah,
That's
bunch of
interesting.
weirdos. For sure.
I don't think That's not what you're supposed to take. Oh, wait.
Oh, it makes sense to me.
You'll notice I'm not totally disagreeing or anything.
Right.
So I think that the whole blended families, whether it's through divorce or remarriage for whatever reasons, or adoption or anything, like there's a lot of that these days. It's this, like the allegory that this movie was based on is something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
No, and it's a good point that they made in the book, in the movie, is that, yeah, even though you came there a little late, you know, the stepfather came a little late, they just had to be there, and there was, you know, love, and everything turned out okay in the end because they put that effort forward.
Right.
Which is a good...
And
that's the goal anyway.
Yeah. Didn't stab him.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's step one.
It's really what kids need is love and to not be stabbed.
Fewer stabbings. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although I can understand why you'd want to stab it sometimes.
Yeah.
and it is really important not to.
Really important.
No matter how much you want to.
Bare minimum. Then you can grow from there.
For sure. But I think you're right. I think that, you know, like the whole symbolism of they're falling into the pit of hell, and Gary was like, I'm not leaving you, and he went with him rather than giving up on him. That was the whole key, is, you know, you get kids who are a little messed up and
bury you.
Yeah. That happens.
Bury you alive in the sandbox.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought it was a sandbox.
Yeah.
Really big sandbox.
Yeah.
And really deep.
and apparently had a coffin in it.
Well, that was his boxcar racer box.
Oh, yep. And you can see he rolled it. The wheels were there. Yeah, he dragged him.
I totally missed that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Here to interpret.
I was like, and I didn't even question it all that much, but that he just had a coffin to put him inside.
The moment they were bringing that box inside, I'm like, oh, that's what he was buried in.
Yeah. Do we think that this kid was actually possessed, or was it all symbolism? Was it perspective? Like there was a point where I was like, oh, we're gonna realize we're learning that this kid's not actually as bad as it seems. It's just, you know, the whole tension in the relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a great allegory of kids being influenced by their biological father that's not a good influence.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're not actually evil themselves, but they're acting upon what they're hearing from the parent that's absent.
Sure, I think that's a very common thing. But Lucas, specifically, was this a movie that was pure symbolism and allegory and all of that? Or was Lucas actually the son of Satan?
I believe he was supposed to actually be the son of Satan, which is what made him so vulnerable to being possessed.
Your thoughts, Mike?
Well, I would just make the warm red body paint argument. It seems pretty clear that that's how you get the son of Satan.
Colin, your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely played it up for the scene where he goes up to tuck him in. Gary goes up to tuck Lucas in, and they definitely played it for the creep factor. You know, the lights went out, and you saw the painting on the walls and all that stuff, and
the lion asking for him to play.
Yep, exact creepy dolls. You know, always bad. But it could have been just written away because it was dark out. It was raining.
Blood.
He was imagining things. You know,
not cool, Lucas. Not cool.
That's right.
So I was leaning toward that it really, you know, was mostly allegorical, mostly symbolism. But then at the very end, I think it was pretty clear that Lucas was using his cult-endowed powers to win that Pine Derby. What are those things called?
Boxcar
thing. I think that was the whole, like, hold on, because he was going to use some kind of the same powers he used to bring the tornado to the wedding and
kill his teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, those seem like they're really big things to use your powers for. So using it for something as simple as, like, steering your boxcar, is that possible?
That's good parenting. Use the tools that you have, you know?
Sure, learning how to
use your powers for good instead of evil.
Which really is a large portion of parenting, right?
It really is.
You totally just reminded me of the fact that his teacher threw herself out the window onto a fence and totally died.
Totally.
And he brought a tornado to the wedding and sucked up a significant number of the guests. Like, okay, I was feeling like, oh, oh, Lucas was just misunderstood, and now I'm a little unsure about him again.
A little unsure.
A little
He
unsure.
only killed tons of people. No big deal.
just tons. That's all.
And, the previous stepfathers.
Oh, right. With,
Yeah.
like, the mulching accident.
And the lightning strike. And
Then the dude who's clearly suffering some kind of mental breakdown in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone was just so afraid in that church. I mean, the faces they were all making in there.
They're dealing with something.
Right.
So, the priest who brought them back to talk to this ex tells them at the beginning, he's like, all right, I'll bring you back there. Don't speak a word. And then they get back there, and they're all talking, and like that was never said. Like, why?
Right.
Why? It was interesting.
or maybe he was afraid that the guy with the mental breakdown would send them after somebody who would kill the boy and open the portal, which is exactly what he did.
That
Is
did
exactly
definitely
what he did.
happened.
Is exactly. So Gary had a nice group of friends, other stepdads, who were totally had his back. I mean, except for that one night when it was past Al's bedtime and Al had
Cranky. Yeah.
he was gonna get cranky and had
I had to get up.
crosswalk duty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, understandable, but otherwise they totally had his back through the whole movie.
And they just met him, which was great.
Yeah,
It's
very
good
supportive.
support, yeah.
Have you found that parents are generally supportive of one another?
Actually, it's my single friends who are more supportive, because my friends that have kids have lots of kids and they don't have time to, like...
They're like, you take care of yours, I'll take care of mine.
Right? We have a lot in common, and we can talk for the 10 minutes in between having to each take care of our own crews.
Yeah.
Sure. How about you, Colin? Do you have a good dad system?
Oh, man. I'm trying to think. No. Good stepbrother, Ryan, of course. He's a good example, and he helps out a lot. I don't want to undermine that. I want to make that very clear that he is...
Stepbrother or brother-in-law?
What did I say?
Stepbrother.
He's brother-in-law. Yeah.
Okay.
Amy's
Okay.
brother. Other than that, there's really not a support network for, I don't know, not my guys anyway.
It's.
Yeah.
I imagine it's tough, like for the same reasons that you said. People get very busy with what they got going on.
And if you have 6 kids and your friend has 6 kids and you have to line up meeting like at a park between nap times,
Right.
and their different schedules, somebody's obviously going to show up late. And just about the time you need to take your kids home, that's when they show up.
Right.
Well,
We
I
have
don't
yet to
know.
find a good support system for ourselves parenting. Huzzah.
Yeah.
If you need some shoulder to cry on, or,
Right.
Sometimes.
We also own a cat. We'll be your support system.
Yeah, it's true.
sharing the highs and the lows. When they sit on your chest when you're sleeping.
Yeah. And then when they box your ears while you're sleeping.
Yes.
Well, to delve into the craft of the film,
Yes.
I noticed there were multiple Edgar Wright transitions in this movie where, they would suddenly, like when they went to go get some beers out of the fridge, it would go, and then they were there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was straight out of Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead or whatever.
Sure.
So they were
Yeah.
going for that style.
Yeah, they went to get beers or whatever, and then the pool cue cracked, and they poured them, and you got them. They're right in front of them. Yep. Click, click, click.
I kind of like that, though.
Yep.
I thought the casting for the child was terrible, because I thought he was 12 until they said he was 5.
Yeah.
I was confused too. I'm like, because they were spelling like clown and stuff in front of him. They were like spelling out words, and I'm like, wait a minute, this kid doesn't know how to spell yet? Like, how old is he? So I clearly thought he was more like 10 at least.
Yeah.
No, you did not look that young.
Also, how did he have the strength to pull the stepdad outside and bury him? And I mean, he was big enough. Obviously, he looked like a 12-year-old. A 12-year-old could do that, but a 5-year-old probably couldn't.
Getting some help from his dad.
From his bio dad.
He's got powers.
I mean, he could call up a whole tornado. I feel like there's some tools that...
Mini tornadoes.
It's like a hovercraft.
To vacuum or something, right? Yeah.
That, I do not know why that reminded me, but...
It's that be hilarious. Yeah.
It's a good system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know why that exactly reminded me, but I did notice and jot down as we were watching that one of the first laughs the movie got from the two of you was when Gary was in the principal's office and the clacker thing. There's a name for it, right? What is that thing called?
Something cradle.
Oh yeah,
Newton's cradle. Yeah. Okay. So the Newton's cradle suddenly stops,
Right.
and I found it amusing that this like breaking of the laws of physics was the first thing that made both of you crack up.
The dread right there, like, whoa, something's not right here.
That's not supposed to happen.
That is not how the universe works.
I have had those kind of experiences with kids, though, where like something will just go wrong, and you're like, but that's not even physically possible.
Yeah.
Oh, kids are scary.
That's why they make so many horror films about them.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, this movie, very similar to The Reaping, which we reviewed last year, only it's kind of the opposite of that movie. We had a whole discussion about, in that movie, the girl, as soon as she found out the kid was evil, she's like, all right, I gotta stab her to death. That's how it is. And she went for it, and she was going to do it. And we had a whole discussion about how crazy and wrong that is to just be like, okay, guess we're going to kill the kid.
Guess you have to die now.
And this movie took the opposite road.
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah. I mean, I think. Yes. Because obviously it worked. It was the right thing to do.
And even if you do have to kill the kid, you should at least pause and be like, but that's wrong, before doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you don't want to dive right in.
I feel like there was one that we watched already this month that had parents who, like, really quickly jumped to this person is clearly possessed and needs to... Oh, I'm thinking of June again. Because, yeah, pretty quickly there were some leaps to like, oh, yep, she's clearly possessed. And I'm like, wait a minute. There are explanations for what's happening here. They're not true, but I feel like you would go to those first before demon possession.
Yeah.
That's what I like about a good horror flick, though, is that if they have those different layers, like keep you second guessing, you know.
Yes.
Is the old lady crazy, or is from your The Visit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
yeah, that was a big thing.
Or is it whatever, and so that keeps the unease. Not that this was not a horror flick. It was a comedy all the way through. I thought they played up the horror, the darkness, and everything for laughs. And Adam Scott I think he's hilarious in everything he does.
His facial expressions are so great, and even like his awkward body movements. I'm like, he makes me feel awkward just watching him.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that this was not a horror, but it was a comedy horror. I mean.
With the emphasis on the comedy.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe that's why it was a little easier to go for the you could just drown the kid in the whatever,
Just put sand in his water wings.
That was I mean, when they talked about it, that's funny, but when he actually was sitting on the slide wrapping weights around this kid, I'm like, this is a bad place for a comedy to be going. This is not right. I feel like
it should be flashing at the bottom, like, do not put sand-weighted water wings on your children.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that beat was a little dark.
It was dark.
Well, and I mean, the teacher poured lye in her own face and jumped out the window to her death. I mean, that was pretty dark, too.
A little bit.
And yet they presented it in a way that made you laugh.
Yeah.
Which sort of says something about us, doesn't it? Now comes the great part at the end of our review, you guys, where we get to do the ratings. Mikey, why don't you start us off with our patented out of 5 system. You need to start because they don't know how our patented system works.
It is a unique system that no one else uses. Right. No one else is even allowed to use because of the patent.
Right.
So I can understand that you guys wouldn't know how it works. But I feel a little guilty making my own measurement.
No, you go ahead.
Unit.
Get started.
No, I think you should do it.
Yeah.
This is a lot of pressure. This movie, I believe, it was pretty fun. It was a funny movie, but it wasn't great. It wasn't like blowing my mind or changing my life, and didn't have any big twists, although it did twist a bit. It was not what I expected at the end from the start. So, overall, I feel that on our patented rating system, I should give it 3.5 earthworms out of 5.
Wait, nose earthworms or pile in the hand earthworms?
I think you can use either kind. It's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we go around the circle? Colin, what would you rate this movie?
Yeah, it was a middling movie, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't the best comedy, it wasn't the best horror flick, but it definitely got some belly laughs. There was, because Adam Scott's great. It was great seeing Sally Field in there.
Yeah,
It was
that's
out
right.
of nowhere, right? And so that kind of boosted it up a bit. So yeah, I'll definitely give it a 3. Earthworm?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
3 earthworms.
Earthworms out of 5. Yeah.
Awesome.
I would say as a horror flick, I would only give it 2 earthworms out of 5.
Yeah,
But as a
yeah.
comedy, I would give it a 4.
All right.
Okay. So are you actually giving it 2 scores, or are you?
I'm gonna give it 2. If you're
averaging
looking at for the horror, it's a 2. If
Okay.
you're looking for a comedy, go for it. It's great.
Yeah. There were
Okay.
good lines.
I actually totally agree with that. I tend to try to do my scores based on whether I think people should watch the movies that we're rating. I feel like people should definitely watch this movie. I don't know that people looking for horror movies should watch this movie. So
Not scary.
yeah, so I think that 2 for horror, 4 for comedy is a good rating there. For the sake of being able to put down a single number for my rating, though, I am
the
going to average
spreadsheet.
right for our spreadsheet. I'm going to average that to a 3.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that's it for Little Evil.
Thank you to Amy and Colin for joining us. You guys are amazing guests.
Thanks for having us over.
You're the best
wonderful.
guests we've had all month.
I feel honored.
Thank you. Wow. That's high praise. Thank you.
No problem. We're happy to have you.
All right, and Hazat was even quiet. That was nice.
Yeah, he was mostly quiet. And that means we will see you tomorrow with another movie.
Woohoo!
Well, as long as we don't get to the red, we're pretty good there. So minus 5, 6.
Minus 5, 6.
It's kind of where I like to put it.
Y E E E.
See, we're professionals.